Hi everybody, it's Jay and I am back in the booth for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. This week's new release is a fantastic and fan favorite entry in Jessie's Cowboy Crossing Western Sweet Romance series, The Beast Gets His Cowgirl in the Show Me State. More on that in just a second, but I had a couple of things I wanted to touch on. First, here in the United States, Thursday is our Thanksgiving holiday, and I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you all a safe and happy holiday. Secondly, I'd like to say thank you personally to each of you, because when we started Say with Jay back in late February, we really had no idea how it would be received, where we'd be at this point. Well, I have to say thanks to you. We've exceeded our expectations for sure. In the 9 months since we launched, we've shared over 400,000 hours of audiobooks and shenanigans by yours truly. And that's just been so wonderfully unexpected. On top of that, your kind and supporting comments have been such a blessing to both Jessie and myself. And again, thank you from the very bottom of my heart. Now, the second thing I wanted to mention is something I'm really excited about. While, as we just established, it's Thanksgiving week, Christmas is right around the corner. Now, along with the busyness of the season, it's also a time for travel and visiting with family and friends, and it's no different for Jessie and me. So, starting the Friday before Christmas and the 3 Fridays thereafter, we're going to do something a little bit different here on Say with Jay. We're bringing back the old-time radio serial. Sort of. Now, no, you will not have to gather the family around the radio waiting for the next episode of The Lone Ranger or The Green Hornet or whatever. But we're going to take one of Jessie's novellas, and over these 4 Fridays, we're going to present that novella in 4 episodes for your listening pleasure. Best part, we want you to help us choose which novella to perform. You've got 3 great choices, and because I do have to talk about this week's new release, I'm only going to give a brief description of each, but not to worry, in the description of the video down below, I'll include the Kindle store links to all of these audiobooks so you can go and read the full descriptions before you pick if you like. First up is Christmas Car Kerfuffle. It is a sweet and funny story about a mechanic and a single mom who happens to be his ex-sister-in-law, and the honest mistake 2 days before Christmas that leads them on a 1,000-mile round-trip road trip to save Christmas for her son and daughter, his nephew and niece. Next up, we have Dreaming of His Kiss. It's the prequel to the Cowboy Mountain Christmas series. Now, you might remember Race and Penny Steiner. They're the adoptive parents of the Barclay siblings. Well, this is Race and Penny's story. Finally, we have another prequel, Take Me Away. It's the origin story for one of Jessie's most popular series, The Baxter Boys. It's the whole story of Torque Baxter and how he came to take the blame and ultimately the punishment for a crime he did not commit. Those are your choices. We have a few different ways for you to make that selection. And again, don't worry about any of the links I'm about to mention or show. They'll all be in the description of this video down below. All right, you can vote for your favorite in Jessie's Reader Chat group on Facebook. You can also vote on the Say with Jay Facebook page. You can make your selection in Jessie's newsletter, which you can subscribe to at jessiegusman.com. And finally, and a first for us, you can actually vote for your choice here on the Say with Jay YouTube channel. If you can't see it down below already, go to youtube.com/saywithjay and look for the Community tab. Click on that and you'll see the poll. Please let us know your choice. We cannot wait to hear from you. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about The Beast Gets His Cowgirl in the Show Me State. It is, as you might guess from the title, a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. But Jessie puts her magnificent writing to it to give us something that is unique and absolutely wonderful. It's the story of a scarred cowboy, mentally and physically, trying to overcome a tragedy, and also a Hollywood celebrity chef who has a secret that's becoming a bit of a problem. She can't cook a lick. This story will have you in stitches. You might shed a tear or two, but ultimately it is a romance that will leave you hopeful and happy. Here is a sample of The Beast Gets His Cowgirl in the Show Me State. I hope you enjoy it. Then you'll come back this Friday for the full audiobook presentation here on Say with Jay.
Are you ready to walk? She nodded, then licked her dry lips, staring between the horse's ears.
I think so, but I'm not ready to steer it myself yet.
He laughed. Teddy's going to tie Badger up to the fence, then he'll be going in for his tack. He should be able to tack him up himself, although I'll be there to give him a hand. While we're waiting on that, I'll take you for a short walk if you're good for it.
Thank you for taking it slow. This is completely new and more than a little scary.
She felt a little bit like a baby and slightly embarrassed. She'd been finding so much in him to admire, and here she was practically shaking on top of the gentlest horse he owned and being completely needy and dependent. Hardly a desirable woman. Plus, even if he did find something to admire, it was all going to blow up as soon as she got in front of the live cameras. There was absolutely no point in going there. We all start somewhere.
So you were like this when you first learned to ride?
He lifted his shoulder. Maybe. I was probably too young and dumb to be scared. I was riding before I could walk. I have baby pictures of my mom holding me on a horse.
She must be quite a woman. She had a baby, and she was still riding horses. I'd be way too scared.
I think she was pretty much the perfect farmer's wife. He seemed to think for a minute. I don't know if I've ever seen my mom scared. He said that with a little bit of color in his tone, like he was remembering, and she wondered if it had something to do with the fire and possibly the loss of his child, or the fact that he'd been in the hospital and perhaps his life was hanging precariously for a while.
I don't think anyone who knows me could say that about me. That's a pretty big compliment coming from her son, that she'd never been scared.
I didn't say she'd never been scared. I just said I've never seen her scared. I'm sure she's felt fear, but her faith has always been bigger. And she's the best person I know with putting boots on that faith and taking it out into life with her.
His words made Madeline curious to meet his mom. She'd never in her life met someone who talked about their mother that way. Funny, when folks lived together as a family, they saw everything, and somehow the faults always seemed to loom larger than the virtues. Her mom had been overwhelmed bringing 3 babies home, overwhelmed raising them, overwhelmed working and being a single mom. There might have been faith there, but Madeline couldn't look back and say that she really saw it. Maybe the difference was her perception of her mom versus Loyal's perception of his. Maybe he was just better at seeing the good in people. She glanced sideways at him, interested to see this side of him. the side that worked with horses and was gentle and sweet and spoke highly of his mother. It certainly was not a side she'd been expecting. A little buzzing in the distance grew louder and louder until it took her attention away from Loyal and made her look up in the sky. By that time, it felt like the ground had started to shake. Her horse sidestepped nervously. Her heart lurched. She grabbed at the mane, her fingers clutching. The sound grew louder. "Whoa," Loyal said as Missy pranced. "It's a fighter jet. They don't go by often. Hold on." He said that in the same tone he'd been talking to the horse, but she assumed he was reassuring her. It worked until Teddy yelled. Her head whipped around, and she saw the little boy holding a saddle and standing inside the fence. The horse that he'd tied had moved around, not quite pinning him against the boards. As though the loud voice had scared Missy as much as the fighter jet, which had grown even louder. She shook her head and shied to the side as the noise became deafening. Loyal's attention had been on Teddy. The reins slid out of his hand. Madeline's hands had loosened some with Loyal's assurance, but she grabbed tighter now. The horse slid out from underneath her. She was able to hold on, barely. But when Missy took 2 running steps, then swerved away from the fence, Madeline was jerked from one side to the other and couldn't keep her balance. Her body slipped out of the saddle. Her head cracked against the fence before she flopped onto the ground with a thud. "Madeline!"
Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.